back. Thank you for coming back and really allowing us to serve you. My name is Dr. Sarah Renee Langley, Lead Her International, and I'm helping you with your ABCs, which is to achieve, become, and conquer in your professional and personal goals by helping you to now discover your truest, highest, greatest, bestest self. Me and my partner in purpose, Coach Cece. So we've been at this for going on how many hours now? We have been doing the mental health wellness support and prayer support for you 24 hours. We decided to use this opportunity and this platform to really serve you in the capacity of counseling and support because of the fact that we all are going through it. This pandemic, lives lost because of COVID-19. And so we now have been talking about some serious matters, and we want to use this opportunity now to talk about stress and suicide. And while Coach CC has a break, I really want to go ahead and talk more about what stress looks like, because you need to know how to manage the triggers, the stressors in your life. Understandable with all that has happened to you. How can you, right? The mindset may be, how can I really deal with this? The whole goal, though, is to help to prevent it from becoming a mental health illness or disorder. So I just want to briefly go over what stress is and then go right into talking about suicidality, because, hey, if you have never experienced what we all have experienced all over the world, I get it. Having counseled for 25 years, I believe I heard it all. And yet, though, I get it if you are at a place where you're starting to have these suicidal thoughts and you're like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. My family's lives are in jeopardy. I lost a loved one to COVID-19. I don't want to pass this along with my family because I'm working at the hospital and I'm dealing with COVID patients, and that I can take this over to my own family so I can't even be with them. I may have it and I may lose my life. I understand. And this is why we're having this conversation, to see how we can best serve you through this trying time. You're not alone. Together we stand. Together we overcome. What is stress? Stress is a non-specific response of the body to any demand or stressor made upon it. And it is such a perceived thought. You're perceiving that it's a threat to your life, and therefore your body reacts. Your heart and blood vessels, to your immune system, lungs, digestive system, sensory organs, brain, it all changes and all now take or come together to help prevent or to protect you from a perceived danger. Think about how you're driving to work, and it almost seems like it's ancient history, right? Since we have been sheltered in place. Well, for you, if you are working, if you are an essential worker, then of course you have to get to work. But let's say as you're driving and all of a sudden you stop at a light, but then as the light turns green, you're about to go and proceed, and you see a car coming the opposite, or not the opposite, but from their side. You see that a car is about to hit you. And so you react because of the perceived danger. You can either stop or freeze because you're panicky. And so that's, there's three parts. There's stop, flight, fight, flight, or freeze. So you could freeze because you're panicked and you can't move. You don't know what to do in the situation. You can flight. You can step on the gas pedal and speed right through, or you can fight. And who's to say that you may turn that car around and start heading towards that person's direction head on? Not probably a good example. But the point being is that depending on how you react determines on how you're going to respond. And so based on the perceived thought of the danger that you're in. So that's how stressors happen. That's where the stress becomes, where if you have decided to, let's say flight, let's say that you stepped on the gas pedal to get out of harm's way. Unfortunately, though, any time there is a perceived threat, let's say that you're in that situation, again, not so much of a car coming your direction to hit you. However, the car, if you see a car and you perceive that a car isn't stopping when you're about to go, every time you have this image in your mind of almost about to get hit, it starts to now have you to react and respond. And then that's when it becomes more towards, it's three types of stressors. You have acute, you have chronic, you have episodic. So episodic is what I'm talking about in terms of every time there's a situation that reminds you of a situation that you almost found yourself in danger or a threat to your life, you're going to react all of a sudden. Your body, your mental state, your emotions, everything is going to now have you to react to prevent yourself from getting hurt or in harm's way when perhaps there wasn't any harm towards you. And chronic stress is when it's happening, you're always stressed, in prolonged time frame. So everything makes you stressed. Any trigger, whether it's perceived a danger or not a perceived danger, whether it's a real danger or not a real danger, it chronically over time, now you're stressed out. And that's where it starts to venture into the lines of the possibility of a mental health disorder, a mental health disturbance. And what I want to go over with you is help you to understand those types, because it helps you to then know how, or to recognize the triggers that are happening, that perhaps you can now regulate yourself and keep yourself from now responding. Less responses, reduce the response to the triggers, and start to tell yourself, because see, it's all in our mindset. I talked about that before, that the way that you think determines how you behave. So this is how you regain control. We talked about that as well. How do you gain control back of your life, your lifestyle, and your livelihood? Making the decision, and then reminding yourself of times that you were in danger, but you got through it. Times that you were resilient and you came through it. You didn't know how you was going to make it, but you made it. So same deal applies. Make that decision that you're going to take hold and regain control of what you can control. Not other people's behaviors or how they respond and react to you. It's all about how you respond and how you react. To let you know about acute stress. Acute stress results from demands and pressures of recent past and anticipated demands, and pressures of the near future. So it's in small doses, so to speak. So while chronic is over time and it's happening consistently, and it's happening across the span of any trigger or any type of perceived response to or perceived thought of the danger that you're in, where there is no danger. Acute stress is like in spurts. So common symptoms are you're emotionally distressed, you're irritable, you have different muscular problems, whether it's now like trapped stress within your body, whether you have stomach aches, tension headaches, back pain, jaw pain, elevation of blood pressure, a rapid heartbeat, sweaty palms. So now in spurts is when it's acute. It's short, not long lasting, as opposed to chronic stress where it's happening consistently over time. So just for you to understand, that helps you to be in position to now start recognizing and identifying when the trigger is an actual real threat versus a perceived threat. Because again, the mindset does serve you to protect you. And that's why we're built the way that we're built, to now be able to help ourselves out of a situation if it is in fact a real danger. When it becomes constant, anything and everything is triggering you and stressing you out, that's when you have to take a step back and start looking at, is this really a real perceived danger, or is this really a real danger, or is this a perceived one in my mind? So that you can start taking back and regaining control, telling yourself when it is real and that you need to do something about it versus it's just perceived, it's in your mind, and that it's okay, you're safe. All right, so wanting to make sure that you know and understand and identify these triggers and the responses to stress. So just to know some of the triggers about when you are stressed out, because hey, this pandemic in and of itself is traumatic, okay? It is very, very stressful. With the effects on your body, the different ways that stress shows up in your body is through like I said, headaches, chest pain, shortness of breath, grinding teeth, indigestion, When it comes to your thoughts, it could show up, or the effects of stress on your thinking can be with anxiety, restlessness, worrying. I know that there may be times that you had sleepless nights, feeling depressed, feeling sad, being angry with the situation, or with powers that be, lack of concentration. You have so much on your mind. How stress responds to your behavior, it has to do with perhaps you're eating too much or eating too little, where now you're considering or contemplating towards drugs and alcohol to numb, to soothe. You're withdrawn, you're isolated. We're already are sheltered in place. Many of us are isolated and feeling lonely already. And even if we are with our family, sometimes we may still feel alone and feel lonely. You're crying. You're not satisfied with your job whatsoever because you signed up to really protect and to serve, and you don't feel like you're getting that same courtesy, and you're feeling totally burnt out. Is that you? Anything that I mentioned actually results in what you're going through right now? I want to give you some tips, some effective coping strategies to see if this can help you out. Because again, it's about making the decision to be the victor and not the victim. And you do that by way of recognizing what you can control, because every bit helps in terms of controlling the situation, or controlling yourself rather. You may not be able to control the situation, but you can control yourself and how you respond, how you think, how you behave, how you react by using these coping strategies. Putting the energy into areas that you can, again, control. Being able to now decide if this is a real danger or a perceived one. Being able to make sure that you're taking care of your body, mind, and spirit, giving yourself that courtesy, the breaks that you need where you can, but you have to make sure that you make time for yourself, as opposed to waiting for someone else to show you that courtesy, that you are important, you are valuable. You show that to yourself, that you are valuable, you are important, and that you're going to take whatever break that you need to still away, and just to have yourself to regroup and recenter and to calibrate. And lastly, making sure that you do things that makes you feel good for yourself, whether that means anything and everything that makes you laugh. If that means that when you get home and that you look at a TV show that makes you laugh, if that means being able to journal, I'm so big on journaling and encouraging you to do the same, to get the thoughts, the feelings, everything out, what's on your mind, your heart, what's in your heart and soul, to write it down, to get it out, because it needs somewhere to go. You have to channel that, because if you don't, you're internalizing it, and then it breeds the possibility of it becoming inevitably a mental health disorder. So you're already going through so much. Anything can have you to have a mental breakdown. Please see what you can do to help yourself out, to prevent as best as you can from going down that route. We need you. And so that means to write it down, communicating to someone, talking to a mental health professional. I am at your service. Me and Coach Cece, we're at your service. That's why we're doing this mental health 24-hour support for you, to make sure that you are whole, that you regain control, that you're not at this alone. We're here to serve you, to care for the caregiver. So please make sure that you reach out to us. Make sure we give you our information. It will be included with this program. So if you ever do need us, we are here and at your service. You can reach me at drsarahlangley.com, DRSARAHRLANGLEY.com, so that we can set up an appointment right away to help you to get through this and to prepare for what lies ahead. And that goes for all of us. If you have to make sure that you take a warm bath, listen to music, doing some deep breathing exercises, making sure that you're stretching as often as possible, using the restroom as needed, making sure that you just relieve yourself from all tension and all stress. That's putting you in a position to actually take control back of your life, your lifestyle, and your livelihood. That's the beginning of that journey. So please make sure that you take advantage of these tips that we're suggesting to you, and to make sure that you implement them accordingly to now put yourself in the right track and right position of being the victor, to being the victor and not the victim. Together we stand, together we overcome. I'm going to stop there, and we will now talk about suicidality. So please, how are you feeling mentally? Are you at your wit's end? Are you at a place where you're like, you know what, I can't do this anymore? I signed up for this, but I did not sign up for this. And you're now starting to contemplate. You're starting to think about harming yourself. And you may be surprised at yourself because of the fact that you never thought yourself to think that way. Let me tell you, I've been there. I've been there. And for me to be a clinical psychotherapist, to fully disclose to you, it was quite a few years ago. But I was in a position where I was counseling people, and I was traveling all over the world, and I'm speaking to, the masses and empowering people to, live their best life, to be limitless and go after their big next, their next level of living, whatever they desire to do. I was just, I was doing corporate trainings, for Fortune 500 companies, and helping them with their stress management, with time management, with conflict resolution. You name it, I was doing it. Helping to provide brief, solution-focused clinical psychotherapy services to those who were at their wit's end, who had challenges at their job or in their relationship or with themselves. And they were like, look, I can't do this anymore. I did all of that. And I had suicidal thoughts. I wrote about it in my book. It's your turn now. 7 Secrets to Living Life on Your Own Terms. Feel free to pick that book up on Amazon. Yeah. How was I able to share about the 7 secrets to living life on your own terms had I not gone through something that had me to feel like I could not live life on my own terms any further, that I was out of control, that I lost, feeling like I lost everything, that I felt depressed and anxious and lonely and desperate. And I just felt like I couldn't do this anymore with this life. I was like, I'm done with this. And I really thought about killing myself. Being raised a Christian, you could only imagine the thoughts of, okay, well, if I kill myself, I may go to hell and all of that. But the pain was so unbearable. And I also thought that perhaps maybe life would be better for everyone else if I wasn't here. Have you ever felt that way? Do you feel that way right now? I tell you, the best thing that you can do is stop and think. Like I said earlier about with stress and how you have to identify the triggers and to question if it is a real threat, or is it a real danger, or is it just a perceived threat? After I went through the whole process, sitting by myself, I was in my house, and no one didn't even know that this is what I was thinking or feeling. No one would have known. I was by myself. And I had 2 knives. I had 2, just in case, I botched it up the first time. I had 2 big butcher knives. And I thought about it. And after I cried to God for like 2-3 hours, because I was waiting for him to tell me, Sarah, don't do this, stop. And when I didn't hear a mumbling word, I was like, wow, God, you forsaken me too. I thought that you were here for me. You want me to go to hell? Why are you allowing this? And no, I had time to think. And I said, you know what? I spiritualized it. I said, well, maybe the devil wants me out of here, because if I'm not here, then I won't be able to serve you. I won't be able to serve you. I won't be able to share my story with you right now to let you know that, hey, I can relate to how you're feeling. If this is you and this is how you're feeling and you feel you can't tell anyone, you can only imagine how I felt. I couldn't tell anyone either. I didn't want to lose my license. I didn't want to, if I decided to live, whatever, I couldn't. I felt that there was so much to lose. Even if I were to tell someone, I didn't know how they were going to perceive me. And because I was the one that was helping everyone else, and here I go being suicidal. Yeah, I had all kinds of crazy thoughts in my head. But I had enough strength to decide to call my friends, my two good girlfriends, to help talk me through and to help me to realize that I had so much to live for, because 6 years later, I would be providing tips on how to help you out if at times that you're feeling suicidal, especially with the pandemic that's happening. So yeah, together we stand, together we overcome. And what I want to do is just bring up some tips on that. If I was reading an article about how they were sharing about the first few people who actually, or it was cases of someone committing suicide, or death by suicide, as it's called now, in regards to, it was a 34-year-old, and he left notes that suggested that he had killed himself because of the fact that he couldn't deal with what was going on with this pandemic. And I was talking to Coach Cece about it, and I said, wow, I could see how it's happening with that age group, with the millennials. This is something that, come on, has never happened in this lifetime. In my generation, we've experienced quite a few things. And for all of this to happen in this lifetime, it is only, I can't imagine like how that young man felt. Or there was another case of, I think it was a 15-year-old who it was suggested that she killed herself. It was death by suicide with her. Her mom found notes that suggested that she has taken her life because of it, the 15-year-old. And this is exactly why we're having this conversation today, to help you out, to know that you are not alone. And what does it look like, especially if you, let's say that you're not someone who is looking to kill yourself, but you know friends and family who may have once tried and have attempts. You have to really monitor or talk to those individuals, because with all of that's happening, definitely can be a trigger towards them. They'll be at higher risk of wanting to commit suicide. So nearly 1 million and higher worldwide have committed suicide each year. Anywhere from 10 million to 20 million suicide attempts annually. Now, they could be higher because some deaths were thought of as an accident, like a single car accident, or overdose, a shooting, that may not be recognizable as death by suicide. Sometimes it looks like it's masked in way of self-harm. So injurious behavior where cutting happens. It's superficial cuts, but hey, those are signs of self-harm, mutilating yourself, head banging, scratching, pinching, self-mutilation. You have to really monitor, if you can, checking in with your loved ones who have been known to self-harm, who have been known to have attempts. Please make sure that you check in. And it's a variation of reasons why there are suicidal ideations, because of the complexity of life circumstances, the pandemic, losing loved ones to COVID-19, feeling so alone, you having COVID-19, and you're like, look, I can't do this anymore. So our loss of freedom, I mentioned that before, how it shows up 3 ways or 3 aspects of us as just being human that we react to, whether we have lost our freedom or control or autonomy, whether we have no longer a connection, we don't feel connected, or we don't belong, we don't feel like we're belonging in a group of our peers, colleagues, or our families. We feel displaced, as well as feeling purposeless. Don't feel like you have a purpose, a sense of purpose or meaning with life. It's understandable if this is how you feel right now. So when any of those are impacted, it really can breed all kinds of reactions, and one being suicidality. So, warning signs. If a person, whether it's you or someone that you know, you are questioning if suicidality or having suicidal ideations or thoughts, rather, you are sensing that, if it's you or someone that you know, usually the signs are making a will, getting your affairs in order, you calling your family members, talking to them one more time, you are buying instruments for suicide, whether it's a gun, rope, pills, any form of medications, considering overdosing, writing the suicide note, telling people that you want to kill yourself, or your loved one is telling you that they are wanting to kill themselves. They don't want to be here anymore. Life would be better if they weren't here. Or giving your prized possessions away. These are all signs of suicidality. And here is the risk factors. Now, this applies for anyone and everyone. Typically, so it's called SAD persons. SAD persons, SADPERSONS. Usually the risk factors for suicide is the sex. Usually it's a male, but at this point it could be male or female. Ages have fluctuated. I remember how there were reports of, as I mentioned, a 15-year-old young girl. It can go as young as 10 years old, 9 years old. I've read cases of young kids as young as 9 or even 8 years old. I think even 7 years old. It really is starting to go younger and younger. So it can range from 7 years old all the way up to 75. I mean, no one is exempt in this case, or even older. The person is severely depressed, had previous suicide attempts. I mentioned that before. Using alcohol and drugs excessively. Trying to rationalize. So I'm going through the SADPER. Rational thinking is lost. You can't rationalize reality versus perception. Either you're separated, you're alone, divorced, you're widowed, or you no longer in a relationship with your significant other. You have an organized suicide plan. There is no significant other. Or you have a sickness or an illness. So that was SAD persons. So sex, age, depression, previous suicide attempt, excessive alcohol or drugs, rational thinking is lost, separated, divorced, widowed, organized suicide plan, no spouse, and sickness. So those are the risk factors of suicide. And the best thing that you can do is make sure that I'm going to give you this phone number to call, the suicide hotline. It is 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. The crisis hotline has been open 24/7. They have had a surge of calls, like up to 800+%, 819% since the pandemic. And we as therapists have moved our services to telehealth, behavioral health services. So you can now reach us online, so we can provide services and care for you by video, by phone, by texting, or even by email. So we are making sure that we are available to you so that you know that you are not alone. So you have options here to either call the suicide crisis hotline at 800-273-8255. You can always reach me. You can go to my website. It's drsararlangley.com. That's DRSARAHRLANGLEY. I'll leave some more information for you with this program, but make sure that you, first and foremost, go back to deciding, are you the victim or the victor? If it is someone that you know that struggles with suicidality, please check in on them. Please, when you are talking to them, don't minimize their concerns or make light of how they're feeling. Please don't tell them, oh, well, you're going to hell if you do this. That doesn't work either. Please don't challenge them with their thinking. The best you can do is just sit there and just be present. Even if it's over the phone, even if it's by way of the video, presence speaks louder than words. The person doesn't need to feel any more lonely than they already do. Please make sure that you don't argue about suicide being right or wrong. Your presence will actually make wonders and do wonders for them if you are now just being present with them and empathizing and sympathizing with them. If it is you that is struggling with this, please know that you are not alone and that we are here to best assist and best serve you. So please make sure that you reach out. And the number again for the Suicide Crisis Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. So in closing, make sure that as you are deciding to be the victor in the situation, to take control and regain your life, your lifestyle, your livelihood. Yes, we are all going through this pandemic. And yes, there seems to be so much that has been at a loss. We lost and we're struggling and we're going through so much right now. If I can just plant a seed, if all I can do is just plant a seed to have you to stop and think, to start assessing the triggers, deciding if it is a real threat or a real danger, or if it's just a perceived thought and that is something that you can control or remind yourself that you are safe or you are able to be in position to protect yourself and keep yourself from being in a situation that it becomes a danger for you. And telling yourself that it was just that isolated incident. You don't have to now have it to become a chronic or just intersperse an acute one or episodic every time something of that similar nature happens that you have to respond or react. You can just remind yourself ahead of time that you're okay, you're safe. If it is perhaps just a perceived thought and not a real actual threat to your life. And when it comes to suicidality, I shared the tips with you, the sad persons, the risk factors of suicidality, but to just know that you're not alone. And you have been resilient. If you were able to make it through before, and maybe you don't even remember how, that's why journaling is so important, so you can chronicle what you have done so that you can have a point of reference to go back to see what you've done before. If you were able to get out of things that you thought you could never get out of, you surely will be able to get out of this one. Together we stand, together we overcome. Thank you. God bless you. And again, we are here for you. We are at your service.